What's good, folks? Family, friends, loved ones, enemies, frenemies, wizards, witches, muggles, mudbloods, people of Middle Earth, to a post-game edition of Disguise Coverage, the only podcast that gives you an equal amount of blueberries in each muffin, presented by the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. That is One Pie Pizza. Find the online menu in the episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you're listening to this show on. I'm your host, Anthony Prohaska. Find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro_ANT. Find me on Blue Sky at proant. No underscores there, just PROANT. I am joined. No, I got nothing funny or witty or anything. I'm joined by Greg Tompsett. We're both pretty miserable right now because it's late on a Sunday and that game sucked. But we're going to talk about Bills Bears preseason week 2. Greg, how you feeling? How's it going? What's up?
At no point in the 10 years I've been associated with Cover One have I been more upset with myself that I offered to take part in the show than I was 2 drives into this game. Yeah. I joked about it in they're like immediately. I was like, oh, they don't care. Just immediately into the game. I was like, oh no. It was, I guess there are some takeaways that we'll get to, but this was just immediate regret. I immediately regret this decision.
That was that game sucked like the time Buffalo drafted Boogie Basham over Creed Humphrey. These are the comments I expect, and I like. That it was. I told you offline. I partially blame myself for this because I thought this game was on Saturday night and not a Sunday night. So coming in, like, once I realized that, like, midweek, I was like, oh, man, like, that sucks because it can be late on a Sunday. I was like, it'll be fine. And then as I got, like, closer, I said it, like, it to myself in my head. I was like, the only way it'll be worse is if the Bills just got, like, blown out and just got completely shellacked. And that is exactly what happened. Yeah, it was. Thanks, Aaron. Aaron at the super chat. It's a sympathy tip. Yeah, man. It was just so a little peek behind the curtain. Greg and I we're it's so foolish to say in hindsight. We're gonna just go position by position and talk through like risers, fallers, like this guy looked good. Like, oh, do you think he made a push for the roster? And not even just because the game was bad. I genuinely and I gotta watch the tape on it. But forget about that for now. Let's table that. I genuinely I felt like nothing happened while also horrible things were happening. It was I just found myself just like watching it and almost, I don't know if I just my eyes glazed over, but I was just I felt like I was just there experiencing this game or like having it happen to me and nothing was registering because it was just so bad or lax. I don't know if it was the lack, like you mentioned, like maybe they don't care or just because of how much the Bears are really putting boots to ass in this game. But I just found myself very much very just bleh, from, about maybe 5-6 minutes in. And I just didn't anticipate that. And it hit me hard.
Yeah. And I think obviously we know McDermott has shared that for our team specifically, we don't game plan. They don't go in. They're not going to show anything. And it's purely individual evaluation. Like they're testing effort, they're testing and checking for, individual performance. And that's what I look for as well. Like, hey, matter of fact, I am much better about my watching habits in the preseason, the way that I rewatch the game, where in real time, like I'm 100% like 99% of fans where I just watch the ball and I'm watching the outcomes of the play. And in preseason, I don't like, I watch, like I pick out a couple players. I'm like, all right, who's in on this snap that I care about. And I watch some of those guys and I'll just watch those players on the snap. And in preseason, I'll rewind more often and then catch up during commercials. Cause I'm not worried about getting some like urgent alert text or something like that that's going to ruin the game for me. So like that's always been my habit in the preseason. Like I'll watch along and I don't care if I don't finish exactly in time or whatever it may be. And like even in this game, that's what my plan was. Again, same idea. And we'll talk about a couple. Like there were some flashes. It wasn't literally zero. There's not a lot, but it wasn't literally zero.
Mhm.
But even the guys that flash, and I think you'll see the names, whatever it may be, Shavers, Hancock,
Mhm.
Ian Walker, Michael Hoyt. Like there'll be a handful of guys that like, oh, cool, that was a nice, legitimately nice play. Maybe besides Hoyt, I don't specifically remember anything negative that Hoyt did.
Mhm.
All the rest of those guys, there were also multiple plays where I was like, well, that's not good. That's not and it was also not great. So again, I think the important part is I don't I don't think we had any serious injuries. Jordan Hancock is the only one that obviously we need to see with the shoulder.
Yeah.
Hopefully that was just precautionary in a normal stinger and
Yeah.
regular game. He probably would have been available to go back in. Pending that and assuming that wasn't something freakishly unlucky or stupid. Because I like Jordan Hancock. I'm excited
Mhm.
about his potential and very obvious roster spot, but
Yeah.
potential role. Beyond there, the biggest takeaway was nobody got hurt, nothing dumb happened, and you can just flush this game and move on and just use the Men in Black eraser, peep, and move on and never have to think about this game ever again. And I plan to do that the moment we stop recording.
We're dead here. Yeah, I was gonna forget about it, and then I would realize at some point tomorrow when I have to go back and watch
Let's
the
say
tape
you can
how much I
forget
hate it.
Wednesday. Like
Yeah,
Wednesday, you can forget.
that'll flush it. It's funny. You mentioning kind of like how you consume the game preseason versus regular season. It makes me more upset because it takes a lot for me to tap out of a game because I value like not even just the Bills, but for football in general, the scheme of it. Like the Ravens kicking the hell out of the Bills last year. The Ravens were doing a lot of cool stuff in that game.
Yeah.
So I was still in the fourth quarter, like they're doing some good stuff, and I could find something to enjoy. And preseason, this. I go super heavy into college football in the draft. So there could be some 7th round guy who's a 5th stringer, and I'm locked into the fourth quarter for the Bills or for anybody being like, oh, I want to see this guy. It takes a lot for me to tap out of a game, especially a Bills game. And I was tapped out like midway through the second quarter. I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this is like, give the ball to Frank Gore 75 times. Let's bleed the clock and go home. Like, I think the last moment, I don't remember, maybe it was in the second quarter, Shavers got open when the Bills were going left or right, and he beat the corner at the bottom of the screen, and Mike White missed him. And that was the last time in the game I was like, oh. And from then on, I had nothing emotional tied to that game after that.
So I had a moment that I'm not proud of, and it was in the fourth quarter, and one of the Bears guy got hurt, and in the moment you didn't know how serious it was. And the immediate flash in my mind was, oh my God, maybe they'll do what the Lions and the Falcons did and they just let the clock run out.
Yeah.
I swear to God, like I swear, I'm not proud of the fact that was my immediate thought was, oh my God, maybe they'll just let the clock run out and end this. Like that was just my immediate intrusive thought. Jumped in to the moment was like, oh my God, maybe they'll just let the clock run out and this will be over.
That's fair. That's how bad it was. That's how bad. Oh, we got another super chat. Let me pull this up here. Thank you very much for being here, and we can enjoy all this misery together.
God bless you.
The super chat. Yeah. My try at a positive spin is talk about the perfect wake-up call for McDermott to rile with the team without having the consequences of a regular game. I actually think it's a very fair thought. Yeah.
I literally had the exact same thought.
Yeah.
So this is, I think it's a brilliant thought because obviously I had it, so it's obviously brilliant. I swear to God, as I'm watching, I was like, well, this is going to suck to watch this game with McDermott. He is going to just lambaste the crap out of these guys watching this. And I don't think that there was I want to differentiate between poor play and levels that were unequal for healthy portions of this with starters for one team and backups for another. I don't want to say Ben Johnson game planned. He didn't game plan for the Bills. That's not. I don't think that's the case. I think he showed a little bit more. I think this was more of a tune-up of his style and play calling, I don't think we called much of anything
No.
of what we're going to be doing. So I think there are some things there where, there are reasons. So I'm not going to say that there was a lack of effort. I don't think that's going to be what comes up, is the guys weren't trying on the field, because those guys are trying to make a roster and earn a role.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be a lot of Jordan Hancock. Let's use him as the initial stock up, stock down. Like, he had some nice flashes, really nice run blitz, came in, made a nice tackle for a loss, had a couple other flashes where you see him moving quickly, using the closing speed. Also, obviously it stuck out because Greg Olsen highlighted it like 7 times because of the blocking receiver for there, but had multiple plays where he just got plowed.
Yeah, Luther Burden, the one where they bring him in motion and they want to do it, he just crushes him, and I was like, oh, that's going to be that kind of night.
Yeah. Well, and I think Deion Walker was another one. It was really funny because if anybody goes back and looks at the timestamps, you'll see like a group of people get excited about Deion Walker because he had a really nice play. Eric had talked about, I think he had a wide alignment, kind of looped inside. You get that momentum going with that enormous body. He ends up taking like the guard and the chipping running back and kind of like bowling through both of them.
The guard falls down. They just puts that length in the huge paw out there. Yep.
Causes what initially live looked like the fumble that Dwayne Carter took back for a touchdown. Like, that was his play. If you go back and look at the timestamps, like 30 seconds before that, Anthony had a tweet about, is it not good if our interior D line's getting blown off the ball and neither of our edges are setting the edge? And it's because, without that play, him and Sanders didn't play great. Like, I saw a couple flashes from TJ Sanders where he was disruptive and made some plays, and neither of them are expected to be, those were like 75, maybe 80% snap guys. So like, they played a ton for like long stretches of this game.
Yeah.
And neither of them are expected to be like stout run defenders, first, second down guys that are doing that. They're going to be contributing pass rush guys who play, and then we'll see what they develop into later in their career. So like, that's not even a concern for me that they weren't great in that role tonight, but they weren't. They were not great in that role. So even like the flashes that both Deion Walker and TJ Sanders had some flashes, they also had some pretty horrendous plays. I thank God for Landon Jackson that he finally had a couple decent plays after like only negative plays in the first game. And even him, some stuff where didn't keep the edge, some weird diving plays where, giving up longer yardage, not holding guys, making a stout tackle. So just in general, so many like that, where even the guys who had flashes, they had plenty of negatives.
Yeah, Sanders is a good one, I think, to start with, because it ties into, we're going to get to safety after. I know that's a big one already in the comments. We're 1,000% going to talk about safety. And again, this is going to be more of, instead of going position by position, we have several major takeaways. We're going to talk about that. I think we'll kind of just mesh this into the run defense piece. I want to make sure I preface this by saying what I've been saying all offseason, because I have been talking about it so much, because my biggest concern for the Bills going into this year was, their ability to not get blown off the ball on the interior. I thought it was a concern last year that was kind of hidden because game script was largely in the Bills' favor. Teams got away from the run. If teams didn't get away from the run, the way the Bills would stop the run is they would just gap out. What they did against the Lions, where, hey, we're going to put 8 or 9 guys in the box. You're not going to run the ball. We're going to try and stop you enough with that. And then we're going to try and go up 21-3, and you're not going to be able to run the ball. Like, that's their best run defense. If it was purely like guy on a guy, head on a hat, or light or neutral boxes, they were not in good shape. It's part of the reason why I wanted Tyreek Williams, while I was even willing to settle for, for Collins from Texas, even though he offers nothing as a rusher. But I don't think we're going to get an answer on that run defense piece even early in the regular season. We got to see this team fill out. We have to see Larry Ogunjobi come back, Michael Hoyt, all of that. So I knew we weren't going to get an answer until deep into the regular season. Not deep, but a good chunk into the regular season. You need proper sample size. No, Baltimore doesn't count because it's week 1, but also they're a unicorn. They run all over everyone. Cool, whatever. But tonight still didn't make me feel good. Like, my concerns, to your point, were there. Like, what I'm afraid of with TJ Sanders, for example, is kind of what we saw tonight. He had, off the top of my head, 2 or 3 really good pressures where he beat his man, similar to what we saw last week. Hand usage, penetration, he's in there. Good pass rush stuff. But he got knocked around on the line of scrimmage. Vertically, horizontally, he was getting pushed around. And that's my biggest concern. Now, again, if you're still sweet as a rusher, that you're still offering something. And I still think that's an improvement versus last year, because Austin Johnson and Dwayne Carter didn't give you either of those things. They gave you pretty much a net negative for both. So if Sanders can just be a plus rusher, that's still a positive. But him getting pushed around a bit in the run was concerning for me. Deion Walker, I kind of expect it just because I know a lot of people talked about the back issue. The man is massive. He's never going to be the low man, and low man wins. Yeah. It's going to be tough for him to anchor down and be stout and drop the knee versus double teams. And his game is penetration based. It is more of a rusher. He's at best, like you alluded to with Eric's tweet and what we talked about in the film when we broke it down. He's arguably at his best the wider he gets on the defensive line. Like, you put him by like in a 4-eye on the inside shoulder of an offensive tackle. That's where he's best. But he's into the defensive tackle role here. And then like Ed Oliver is undersized. I don't want him battling double teams. The only guy who's really can do that is Daquan, and he's a little long in the tooth with miles on the tires. So I say all that to say it's preseason. This isn't the starters. Pump the brakes. We're still not going to know until the regular season. But still, I did not like what I saw, because even though it was the backups, like you said, TJ Sanders to start the year with Ogunjobi suspended, TJ Sanders is defensive tackle 3. When Ogunjobi comes back, he's probably defensive tackle 4. Gonna see a heavy chunk of snaps. Yeah. Walker probably gets rotated in at some point unless Dwayne Carter holds him off, but I don't see that happening. It was concerning on the interior, and then you mix it with a couple of the points that you mentioned as well. Like, yeah, guys on the edge getting sucked in, giving up, contain or not setting the edge and being forced players, and running backs getting outside. It was ugly up front and in the spine from a run defense standpoint.
Yeah, and we know we've built kind of that old school Colts defense. They used to be like that with the Peyton Manning defense when you had Freeney and Robert Mathis and Bob Sanders.
They would try and just get up on you, so that way teams had to pass, and it was like
it was just saying like and every once in a while in those seasons they'd get one of those negative game script games, and they would just get pounded, and they would give up 250 yards rushing, and everybody would ask all the questions and be like, yeah, but they're gonna have the positive game script in like 13 of their games. So like, it's not bad.
It more than balances out essentially.
And we're gonna too. Like we are gonna boat race way more teams than are gonna shove the ball down our throats. But I got bad news for people. It's going to happen a time or two this year. A team or two is going to get the wrong bounce. We're going to get the wrong drop. We're going to get the bad fumble luck. We're going to get the couple things that don't go our way. And what's going to happen is, instead of it last year, it was the Cardinals, it was the Titans, it was a couple of those games where we had some weird moments of like, how are we down double digits to these like iffy teams? It's going to be like the Ravens game. Where it's going to be like, oh crap, this is not the right team to give that game script to. And if it had happened to us against the healthy Niners, or the Lions, if it went the other way around, that was a team that absolutely would have spammed us and just run and run and run with no concern of just continuing to run at us. So, again, it's fine. We're going to be fine. Like that, all that's going to work. And we don't have the the difference maker that Josh is on offense. It's not like that, but there are some, like Greg Rousseau legitimately is the best run defending defensive end in the league, one of whatever you want to talk about. Terrell Bernard is very good at diagnosing what's going on. Daquan Jones, like you said, he can't play to the level he did before, but is a good player. Ed Oliver is actually, for his size, does a decent job. He's just he's never going to hold up to a double team in that way because he is undersized. So some of those different, Joey Bosa is actually a sneaky, very good run defender. So there are things like that where when the real guys are in there, just individually, some of those players like Greg Rousseau, I don't want to say never, almost never loses the edge. Like he maintains contain as well as any defensive end in the entire league. Those make a huge difference. Bosa and Greg Russo are going to be able to funnel things back in. Milano and Bernard can make the tackles like that. That's going to function better than it does now.
Yeah.
But it is never going to be our strength. It is not our fault. Like, we have not built that team. And you want to know why I know that we haven't built that team? Brandon Beane has refused to add a legitimate one tech, regardless of my constant begging and pleading, and that I had to settle for, legitimately a massive human, but not even the kind that I was asking for when I say large human over and over and over again. It's not even the kind that I was really wanting. I won't go on the rant of the just furious anger I had watching Derek Harmon look awesome for the Steelers.
I was watching Tyreek Williams for Detroit last week, and then apparent with that rumor of the Bills told Tyreek he was going to be their guy if he was there in round 1, and I was like, oh, they were so close to maybe getting that.
That would have been so nice. So all that said, I think the guys that had their poor moments today, before we get into the safeties, I'll add one more in that area.
Yeah.
I think tonight was a nice, healthy wake-up call for Bills Mafia on what Joe Andreessen is and what he is not.
Very fair.
I am excited about him being a absolute roster lock. I'm excited for him being a special teams maven. I am excited about him, honestly, maybe pushing Dorian Williams for the short yardage goal line third linebacker spot of just downhill coming forward. I'm okay if that's even a possibility. I don't think he is. I think Dorian's still the third guy. But fans need to understand, regardless of how awesome the story is and how fun Buffalo Joe and the moments on Hard Knocks are, if Joe Andreessen played real snaps for the Bills right now, I'm not saying never, maybe he can develop in this area. Right now, every veteran savvy quarterback, it would be an immediate focus and red flag on him, and they would go after him over and over and over and over until the Bills were forced to remove him from the game.
Like what teams did to Dorian Williams when he went in his rookie year to replace that. The Giants and the Patriots just attacked him over and over. And it was like, all right, crap. Yeah.
That, and again, that is just an objective evaluation of where he is in his very early, already amazingly overachieving career. The man has made an NFL roster now 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
As not only an undrafted free agent, a non-combine invite, non-first wave. He wasn't even a priority UDFA. He was a rookie mini camp walk-on tryout. To surpass all of that, he has already exceeded every expectation. Awesome story, super great. He and I won the same wrestling award in high school. I have a great affinity for the man. We were both Elio DePaulo wrestling scholarship winners. Trophies right here. I can see it right on camera. I have a great affinity for it. Anyone who is getting ahead of themselves of oh man, we got to find a way to get him on the field. No, we don't. No, we do not. Take a breath. It can be an awesome story, and no need for that.
It lined up so unfortunately well with it. So in the film room this week, Eric and I showed several of his pieces in coverage from the first game against the Giants, but how that lined up with a bunch of the coaching he got in that episode of Hard Knocks, where they were talking about him in coverage and getting to his landmark and guys getting behind him. And we showed that on tape. And that was a concern with him last year. For as much as he balled out in that game against the Steelers, think of it, if you're going back and thinking, yeah, he looked great against the Steelers. What was he doing in that Steelers game? Everything was in and around the line of scrimmage, and it was run defense based. He was making tackles left and right. He was shooting gaps. He was triggering. He's good in that regard. His processing and his trigger and his finishing in and around the line of scrimmage and going forward is good. He takes on blocks well. He's fine. You start to get him in coverage, and like tonight showed, he struggles a bit. And there was I started to feel bad for him at one point because as the game went on, he kept getting closer and closer to making plays on the ball, but wouldn't. And I think it was one in the third quarter. They ran a dig. Bills defense was on the left side of the screen, and he reads it. And he he's trying to come to the middle of the field and he jumps to make the play, and the ball's just because he doesn't have the longest arms, the ball goes over his outstretched arm. And I was like, oh, this, like, he read it. He started to get there, but he still was unable to make the play. And to your point, though, I think that is something to be expected. I'm the only thing I feel bad for him with, it actually kind of frustrates me a bit. Like, I saw a lot of people just kind of, I put out a tweet of, he's essentially what I just said. Like, he's a good run defender, but he still needs work in pass coverage. And people were just coming in like, no, he sucks. He should be cut. He's terrible. He hasn't done any of those things. And it's so annoying because like a year ago, he was the greatest linebacker ever, and he should start ahead of Dorian. And it's just like, I think the expectations positively and negatively get so out of whack. And yeah, for a dude who went to Lancaster and went to UB and was a very large afterthought and who made a roster, it would be awesome if he went the route from like nobody to a starter and was awesome at any point. Like, I always think back to when the Bears picked up Robbie Gould, the kicker who was their kicker forever, was a Pro Bowler. He was like roofing and putting up shingle on like houses, and then all of a sudden was kicking for them and being awesome. That doesn't happen all the time. Guys don't come out of nowhere like and just all of a sudden descend. He is a work in progress. He got picked on tonight. I also think what was also lost in that a bit, Dorian also had some moments where he was lost in coverage. He's still a work in progress. And he's had much more NFL time on task than Joe Andreessen and another year. So, like, perspective for everything. But yeah, I wasn't expecting everyone to turn on Joe Andreessen so quickly and call for his head. Like, I felt like I was in the beginning of Shrek and everybody was there with the torches and pitchforks ready to march into the swamp to like take Joe Andreessen's head. I was surprised at how much they turned on him so quickly. But yeah, he's a guy who continues to need to learn and get time on task.
Yeah, and again, I think he is going to thrive in that special teams role where it's a lot more of that diagnosis. He does have like a preternatural ability to diagnose run game and to really find the ball and to be able to, like you said, to just decipher what he's seen and make the play. That gives me reason to think that he can learn to do some of that in coverage. Like, that is much different in the NFL than where he'd been before. But just, we also have to accept the fact that not everyone's ceiling is a starter. Like, that's not the only roles on the team. Every single backup is not a starter in waiting.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. It's not like you just, our backups could easily start. That's not the case.
Yeah, like good depth can be a role. Like, I love, obviously, there's lots of annoying things about Belichick. One of his great sayings, don't tell me what a guy can't do, tell me what he can do.
Yeah.
And that is what he can do. Like, so that's a perfectly reasonable way to do this. But with that in mind,
real quick, I want to grab this. Yeah, let's talk about safeties. I want to grab the super chat from Adam. I missed it. Adam, thank you for being here. Thank you for the super chat. I think this is a very succinct way to put it. Obviously, defensive depth is an ongoing problem, but we can't read too much into a preseason game against a team with everything to prove. I think that's also a good point, too. And Greg mentions it ties into something you mentioned earlier. Yeah, the Bears, I think, treating this more of, you have a new coaching staff. I think the preseason games are much more tune-up, finding our rhythm for the regular season than it is for the Bears or for the Bills, I should say, who, I don't want to say the Bills are punting on the preseason, but I definitely think there is more intention to what the Bears are doing as they're trying to get everybody closer to being game ready within Dennis Allen's scheme, within Ben Johnson's offense. Whereas the Bills, it is more, we've rode this bike before. Yeah, we want to make sure the wheels have enough air and the pedals are good and nothing's too creaky, but we know how to ride this bike. I think it is a different bit of a, operating process for each side.
And we also have to realize, a big thank you to Adam. I appreciate your contribution. I agree completely. Also, there might have been different decisions made if we didn't have, I think, if I remember Kyle Trimble's message right, I think we've had 47 players need athletic trainer attention so far.
Crazy.
Like, so I that's not an exaggeration or a joke. Like, no, I think he said the number was 47 different, or maybe there's some repeats in there. I don't even know. Yeah. So maybe things would be a little bit different. Like, I do think there's a point, I think Steve Mathis has brought it up before, of like, hey, I'd actually like to see us play a little bit more in the preseason or push. We've had some weird, that Steelers loss and the Jets Zach Wilson loss after Rodgers went out, and the hole we dug against Arizona. Like, we have a pretty consistent track record of like not starting all that hot to begin the year. Maybe we should play a little bit more in the preseason and be able to work our way up. So I think in a perfect world, I don't think that's lost on McDermott and the coaching staff and the front office either. So I do think there's a chance that if all things were equal and we had a really healthy training camp, maybe we would have seen more things tonight. But yeah, this is the first one with the they didn't play any starters in the first preseason game for Chicago. This is a home game on a night game. Nice little introduction for Ben Johnson to the city and to the team. I think again, it's our guys were trying to. They got embarrassed. That's nothing to there, but I do think there was a little bit more intention from their side.
That segues really well into what you were about to speak on when we talk about, maybe some questionable play, but also some injuries. The safety position falls into that camp. Taylor Rapp has been banged up. Cole Bishop has been banged up. We've seen that play out in the first preseason game, within training camp, within the scrimmage, all of that. No Taylor Rapp tonight. We saw a starting safety duo of Cole Bishop and DeMar Hamlin. Greg, what are your thoughts on whether you want to frame it within the scope of this game or the larger picture within the safety room? I had and have large reservations about the safety unit coming into the season. I don't feel good about it or feel better about it after tonight, or good about it either. I do think some of the plays early on, especially two of the first three chunk plays, where people were, DeMar and Bishop, that was more on Andreessen in the second level than it was the safeties. But not a great look tonight for the safeties. Are you locked into more of how they look tonight, or are you kind of projecting it a little more towards the season of, I'm kind of getting a little worried on Cole Bishop. I don't feel comfortable with DeMar Hamlin. Rapp is banged up. Like, what are your feelings on this safety group? Did tonight influence at all, or are you kind of looking at things just in a vacuum of this performance and going, woof?
Yeah, I spent a decent amount of time tonight, like researching what does Marcus Williams have left.
Was it Justin Simmons?
Oh, yeah. So I agree. I do think some of the things that got laid at their feet were on the linebackers or on the defensive line not getting pressure or whatever other pieces. But I will say, Hamlin got caught flat-footed on the Zacchaeus touchdown.
Man, that was a really horrible look.
You got to you need to come light him up, but you can't. He didn't touch him.
Yeah, it was bad.
He didn't touch him, and he was there with a 7-yard cushion with 15 yards behind him to the end zone.
Your voice fluctuated to a question. He didn't touch him. This is that toe.
That's a concern. In the same thing, actually, almost identical run blitz that Hancock had his TFL on. Hamlin missed the tackle and ended up being an 8-yard gain. So there was some stuff that was on him. Bishop, obviously the one that stands out is him being locked in coverage man to man against Alameda Zacchaeus. That is not an indication of what kind of season Cole Bishop is or is not going to have, because at no point is that going to be how we successfully use him. And anytime it is, it's going to need safety help behind him to do that, because a jitterbug really fast slot receiver is not going to be a great matchup for him like that. So it didn't look good. There's reason to be concerned, but the defense, the coaches are well aware of the fact that that's not his skill set to do that. So we need Taylor Rapp to be healthy for 20 plus games, and that is just more consistently not a high likelihood of happening. He is the closest thing that we have to consistent, and he at his best is a high variance player that's not consistent. Even when he's at his best, he does make so many toxic plays and so many disruptive havoc plays that it makes up for the fact that he's not a like play in play out like lunch pail guy. Like he whiffs, he misses, he shoots through spaces trying to make the big hit, and like but he does enough of them where it lands that it's worth it, and like his variance is a net positive overall. And if you had him, I always think back to like if we could take him, and he had like a prime Micah Hyde as his partner in the secondary, it would be great. Like, because you would have those seasons where Jordan Poyer was an all-pro because he would do all the havoc wreaking. So Maddox here asking about Jordan Hancock. I think the next one was on Derek Forrest.
Yes, there's a lot of safety comments.
Wande Owens, was a guy that was supposed to be like the UDFA we would be hopeful about. Jordan Hancock's basically gone from nickel to full-time safety. I know DeMar Hamlin gets a lot of hate, and Aaron tries to pump the brakes. They're like, he's actually like a reasonably adequate player, but obviously, regardless of where you fall on that, at best, there's a very limited ceiling of where it is, and then the impact of the limitations is debatable.
Yeah.
I am right now short of, and if I'm Marcus Williams, Justin Simmons, there's a handful of others out there, but those are the two like guys who actually could probably come in and be a Trey White type starter. Like, hey, this isn't going to be perfect, but they're going to be good more than they're bad, and they're going to make the right smart play enough that we can make this work. If I'm their agents, I literally am calling Brandon Beane today. Like that's not me making a joke. Like that's fair. Hey, what's up?
What's up?
What's up? Like, you guys, you want to talk? I just am. All of our eggs are in the basket of like, no, Cole Bishop's going to be a good football player. Like, that's it. That's the entire plan. Yeah. That's the whole thing. The entire plan is Cole Bishop's going to be good, and I don't have a ton of evidence that that's correct. That's true. I think it's possible. I think there's a reason he was supposed to be a day 2 pick. He's probably a little early in the second round, but he was, I think, pretty universally a day 2 guy, probably more third than second. But like that's still that even if that had been the case, that's a guy we would have been expecting to compete for a starting spot this year, a 3rd round pick in his second year. Like that's what we should be expecting. I'm gonna hope that that's the case. We have produced defensive back play from much lesser players than him. We have a scheme that allows for guys to play to the best of their ability. But that's our whole plan: is Taylor Rapp stays healthy and Cole Bishop's good. And I don't feel awesome about either of those things. And anyone beyond there is more concerning than that.
Yeah. I think it's a very fair. I think everything you said is very fair and succinct. I'm falling apart. It's just, I don't want to go too much on it because I've spoken about it so much this offseason. I don't want to bang the same drum or repeat myself too much, but it's all just gotten to the point of, I think DeMar Hamlin has always been a very fine safety 3. I think he's a great guy. Oh, your starter's banged up and he needs to play for a game or play for, 2 to 5. Okay, cool. He can get the job done. Or I think he could potentially be a starting safety on like a loaded defense because he's reliable, he's responsible, and you can get away if you have a bunch of playmakers around him and guys who can do other things and compensate a bit. But it's funny. Yeah. The notion of him regularly starting on this defense, again, his experience at Pitt, I thought gave him such a high floor here. That combined with McDermott and co. essentially being defensive back whisperers and getting so much blood out of the defensive back zone. You take Hyde, who was a punt returner and a jack of all trades DB, and you turn him into an all-pro safety. You take Jordan Poyer, who most Bills fans hadn't heard of when he left Cleveland, turn him into an all-pro. You take Levi Wallace and make him actually like a low-end CB2 after being a straight-up UDFA that no one cared about, undersized, skinny, all that kind of stuff. So I trust them with safety. And at the same time, I find myself like not having confidence just in this group because I don't want to see Hamlin starting. And Bishop, I don't love his fit within the defense. I didn't like it from the moment they drafted him. The line I always say is I thought he was better served being in a defense like Baltimore or Arizona or New England, where it was like 3 safeties and he could play more apex, monster man, cover tight ends, running backs in and around the box, in and around the line of scrimmage. I always thought the further he got back, the further he got away from the line of scrimmage, the worse he got. Not meaning that he was bad or subpar, but the further away, the worse he got. The closer he was, the better. Obviously, the inverse of that. He is, despite being a good athlete, I hate that he got matched up with Zacchaeus because that is not, he can man up on some tight ends and running backs. He's not winning that battle against Zacchaeus. I don't think a lot of safeties are. Zacchaeus, like you said, is a shifty.
Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde would not have looked good in that situation.
No, exactly right. You are not putting many safeties against and I know Zacchaeus has bounced around a bunch of teams, but he is like a functional wide receiver 3 in slot and has been for a variety of teams. And you get him on in a man coverage situation where they run a switch release and create some outside leverage, beats him inside. And even that, there's no help inside from Andreessen because his eyes are elsewhere.
Correct.
And then as Bishop's trying to get him, still, again, Zacchaeus beat him. Kudos to him. Tip your cap. Hamlin's got to make that tackle. Like, it's just...
Like it would have been a play we might have talked about anyways as like a 15, 20-yard gain and like a play like, oh man, Cole. Like, so if DeMar comes up and makes a tackle there and it's a 17-yard gain, it's a play we still talk about as like, man, that's not what Cole Bishop's like strength is going to be. But that's it. Now it's like, oh yeah, that exposed Cole Bishop is a good athlete, not like a special athlete. No one's keeping up with it. And by the way, flip it around the other way. Elijah Moore would be the same kind of thing. Like if you had a normal starting safety, like anyone outside of like an absolute freak, like starting safety in that situation in space with no inside help and poor over the top help, 30 out of 32 starting safeties are looking bad in that situation.
I am taking, if it's Elijah Moore against Cole Bishop, I'm taking Elijah Moore 100 out of 100 times. Like in the slot, a two-way go, a shifty slot receiver against the starting NFL safety. Yeah, they're going to win, let alone the switch release and what Ben Johnson did. Good little design. Cool. Kudos. Tip your cap. But it was so funny that Bishop gets beat and then Hamlin misses the tackle. And I was just like, oh, what a horrible way for them to score. And to start the game like that, given where this position group is for a lot of fans.
Yeah. Well, as Cam Murray says here, I don't understand why it's so hard. Why can't we just get 2 Kyle Hamiltons? Like, just do that. And there you go. We'd be able to, have a lot of it.
Crazy.
It's like Bean's not even trying.
No, it's terrible. And it'd be crazy if a team like Baltimore could have a Kyle Hamilton and then pair him with a safety like a Malachi Starks.
Like, it would be amazing. Weird like that fall to them.
It'd be so crazy if they could do that.
So terrible.
Yeah. And it's just, I think Bishop can still be fine. I don't love his fit in this defense. And I don't like the pairings of any of them. Like Rapp and Hamlin together, you're limited athletically. Bishop and Rapp, Bishop is athletic, but doesn't yet have the processing to put that athleticism to use the farther he gets away from the line of scrimmage. And it all just... I think I tweeted it like last week and I meant it as a joke, but I really do seriously believe it. I think this is karma from the football gods from being like, you guys had awesome safeties for years. You have to pay the tax now and just have questionable and inconsistent play going forward. And that's what gives me, I think, the most pause. And also even with tonight, I would have liked to see, I know he's coming back from injury. I would have liked to see more Cole Bishop. I think he needs more time on task. I don't know if them pulling him was always going to be part of the plan or, hey, we're just kind of working him in. Let's get his legs under him because he is working back from injury. I would have liked to see him get more work.
One more drive, like a little bit more.
Something.
Yeah.
Something. But
so, and I don't know that I expect overreaction or panic from this team. I don't think they do that a lot. But I will say, if somebody asks me, what is the one position that if we did make a move, even though it's fun to say Terry McLaurin or Trey Hendrickson or Mike Parsons or all those things, of course, anytime somebody becomes available, Brandon Bean checks. And if they're actually going to be moved, I'm sure he has conversations. All those things are very, very real. Us actually pursuing a player to check in on, like, hey, you had a high draft pick at safety, and Okay, good. So Douglas confirmed. I know I saw Cal Trimble like speculated that when he immediately came out. Was his guess was it was a rep count, so I'm glad McDermott confirmed that. He wasn't benched.
Yeah, right. Say if somebody was like, McDermott probably pulled him because he sucked so much. I was like, I don't think that's what happened.
I don't think that's the case. That is the spot. Like that, I'm half joking about the Marcus Williams and Justin Simmons thing. Justin Simmons did not look good in Atlanta last year, so people need to remove the name from the play and what's still there. I feel bad saying this because he was such a warrior for us, so amazing. Like I even had the moment of like, do we call Poyer? Like,
wow.
Like, and he was done in his last year with us, let alone in Miami last year.
Yeah.
I'm just grasping at straws. Like, I'm just at the point of like, man,
that says a lot that you're grasping at straws.
Processing.
For that position.
I need processing. Like, we have shown we can scheme around athletic limitations. We can. Like, we can scheme around athletic limitations. And I will say, the couple flashes, the only positive we talked about here was the pass rush impact. That's without Larry Ogunjobi and Michael Hoyt and Joey Bosa and all those different. Like, I actually think there's a chance we have the most impactful pass rush of the Josh Allen era. I'm not saying cold front, 4 guys in double-digit sacks. I think we're going to have the most impactful pass rush that Josh Allen has had.
Yeah, the run defense piece I am concerned about, but they should have a significant upgrade from a pass rush standpoint.
Yeah. So if that's the case, even more so that you can scheme around limitations. Now, that means we're not going to have as many disguise coverages, but if you have pass rush that can get home, you don't need as many disguise coverages. Like all those things can go. Like those are all things where like, hey, maybe if we just have a guy like Simmons, who obviously doesn't have a ton left in the tank athletically, but is an incredibly smart player and knows where to be, is that the lesser of evils? And that if Taylor Rapp's throwing his body around like crazy, and now all of a sudden you put a piece like that in as like just a placeholder, and again, Trey White, I think, is the corollary of like, hey, there's limitations there, but like he is going to do the right things, play in, play out, and we'll deal with the rest. Yes, he's going to get roasted on a crosser at some point in a game. People are going to lose their minds, but he's going to have like 55 other really good snaps in that game, and we'll live. Maybe if you plug a Simmons or a Marcus Williams or whoever into that spot as a placeholder with limitations and not great, but they're going to make the right plays, they're going to make the right reads, they're going to know where to be. All of a sudden, now you remove the point of like when Taylor Rapp gets hurt, well, now it's Cole Bishop coming into that spot where he spends most of the time down to the line of scrimmage. And now like it just the domino effect of like functionality. And I think I saw a question in the chat about Derek Forrest. I won't lie, I let myself get a little bit excited when we signed him, just because you go back 2 years and you look at that previous play that he had in his second season, and then got kind of lost the job, and they made a switch on defense. And I convinced myself, well, maybe it just wasn't the right fit. Maybe we could recapture that because you went through Levi Wallace and Dave Jackson and all in Poyer and Hyde and what they were. I was like, hey, if somebody's going to recapture who was a pretty high level athlete and recapture that, maybe we can do that. But that does not seem to be taking place with Derek Forrest. He's maybe clinging to a 52nd, 53rd roster spot, special teams kind of thing. He was in there with the starting, whatever you want to call that, special tems unit for punt coverage and kick coverage. I did notice that. So he's at least fighting for that spot. But I don't think we want him playing snaps either.
No. And I do think too, he didn't play tonight. I think Cam Lewis might be safety 3 on this team if we're really kind of maybe push comes to shove. Like if Bishop or anything happens to Rapp, Cam Lewis goes in ahead of Hamlin. I don't know if that makes anybody feel any better, but Cam Lewis functions into that conversation as well.
I can't even process if that makes me feel better or worse.
That's where we're at with safety.
I actually think I'm sad that makes me feel better. I think that's the emotion I'm feeling right now is sadness.
So you're really you're like, oh, that's nice. And then you're like, oh, no.
Yeah, correct. Like I'm pretty sure the emotion I'm feeling is sadness at the realization that made me feel better.
That's where we're at. It's just, and even when they need Rapp back there, and Bobby Babbitt just said it, like that position is so cerebral. They need Rapp back there for the adjustment standpoint. But again, I just don't think like the fit. Rapp and Bishop are both better in and around the box and around the line of scrimmage. And if you put Taylor Rapp as a single high safety, he doesn't have the range, but he has the processing. If you put Bishop back there, he's in theory got the range and the athleticism, but he doesn't have the processing. They both can do the two high stuff, but they're both better coming forward. Yeah, it's just it very much makes me feel just kind of like looking at the safety room. I keep just being like, how did we get here? Like that's what I keep asking. And as bad things happen, I'm just like, how did we get here?
The really frustrating, I think it was Doug said in the chat earlier about how he remembers back during the draft when people were like, well, we don't need Malachi Starks. Like we already have a plan at safety or whatever it was. And like, yeah. Like, no, I had safety on the list the whole time. I would have been perfectly fine with it. I wanted Xavier Watts when he was falling. I think there was another conversation in the chat.
Yep, Xavier Watts. Everybody told me Cam Kitchen sucks because he didn't run a great 40. Did pretty sweet for the Rams last year, but we took Bishop. But again, rookies will see. And man, you know what's going to be really bad? If Bishop doesn't pan out, then that draft, the round 2 pick and the 3rd pick, it was Cole Bishop and Dwayne Carter. Carter already looks like he could be gone and nobody would think twice. And if Bishop doesn't pan out, oh boy, I'm waiting for people to jump on
I'm now fully expecting like a Cody Ford-ish trade for Dwayne Carter. I don't think he gets released, but I expect hey, we traded Dwayne Carter. And like, wait for the details. And they go, oh, hey, we traded Dwayne Carter in a 6 for a 5.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
That's a win.
Awesome.
At this point, yeah,
I'm glad got a thing for him.
For that 3rd round pick, yeah.
Awesome.
Unfortunate. Let's try to spin it to some positives as we move on in this episode. Tyrell Shavers looked good again tonight. He got open. He's interesting. I would like to see him get some more work with Josh Allen. That's a fun thing. Looked good last week. Looked good this week. I'm excited to see him on tape. I think that's a positive.
Yes, 100%. That's a great way to end this here, is to have something to cling to. I don't know if he's joking or not. Brad Robbins is a good punter. Brad Robbins is a good punter. Like that is a real thing. I hope that he's a good holder. I hope that that's the case. We don't know because Caden Davis is not a good kicker, so that I won't count that against him. But Brad Robbins is a good punter. That's cool. Like I'm good with that. He's young. He's good. We can be here for a while. Totally good. Tyrell Shavers, I now think I've gone through this from a roster machination standpoint, and I now think that there is actually no value in releasing Curtis Samuel. He has a guaranteed salary. There's no value.
Yeah, the dead cap sucks.
It doesn't. It kicks into next year. It doesn't actually hurt us this year. It's basically so for this season, it does suck overall. For this season, it's no difference. It's technically $440,000 in savings. Technically,
I'm looking at it purely from how much it costs, even though, to your point, it's
correct. So it would now add like a 6 million, whatever, into next year, maybe even more, 7.3, something like that. But Tyrell Shavers may have now put the Bills in a position where they IR Curtis Samuel, because you can do the eligible for return IR designation in camp, and that like, hey, you can't even practice. We don't trust that you're going to be ready to play. We have to pay for you anyways. We're not paying for you and giving you one of our 53-man roster spots. We're just going to stash you over here. And then you could get to a point where break glass in case of emergency, Shakir re-aggravates something, Elijah Moore gets dinged up. Hey, we need you. We're going to activate you. But I almost think like Tyrell Shavers has played so well that like, hey, we can't keep a 3rd slot receiver gadget guy. We have 2 of those already that can catch screen passes and play the slot. We don't need a 3rd one. We need more, field stretching, big body guys who will play special teams and coverage units. And like, you see him and you see the length and the ability, but like when they popped up his little thing on the Chiron and it was like, oh yeah, he's 6'4", 215. Huh. He is pretty big.
Yeah. And he can move pretty well for that size.
My God,
he's
dude.
Got a good stride. He glides.
His release on that one where dude, it's now enough where I don't we had this moment with Joe Andreessen last year where I went through the
Yes.
stages of like, oh, that's kind of neat, to like, oh, this is pretty good,
Yeah.
to, oh, we can't expose him to waivers.
Mm.
Like he has to make the roster. Like you can't. You can't expose him to waivers. I I almost think Terrell Shavers has graduated to.
Mm.
I do not think we can assume he's going to make it to our practice squad.
Mm. I mean, you can't teach size and you can't teach speed and athleticism. And it's the positives that we talked about. What could make him, something to crack the roster. And like what you just mentioned, he's got size, he's got some frame, he's got some long speed, he's got some athleticism, he's shown good hands. I think to steal one of your phrases, there's a non-zero chance that he gets picked up somewhere. I do think it's a fair ask. The Samuel conversation, even just not even from a quality of play standpoint, like I just don't think you're going to say Samuel dresses for week 1 and whatever is ailing him now is all healed up. He's probably going to get banged up at some point again. Like you can't count on Curtis Samuel to play a full season healthy or just in general at some point. So like you're going to need your wide receiver 6 to become wide receiver 5 or wide receiver 4, however what. And that's not taking into account what happens if Palmer gets banged up or Keon gets banged up. And it's become this really interesting spot where at first I was like, oh, let's see if anybody can make some noise on the depth charts. And now I'm like, do they need to use him? Like, is Samuel done? Like, it's a conversation that I don't like having.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of a necessary one.
Well, especially the contract they contributed, that he had basically 2 guaranteed years last year and this year, and we're going to get like less than 1 combined season out of the 2.
It's really unfortunate. That's a dark side. Yeah, unfortunate. But Shavers looked good. Anybody else that you thought flashed tonight? I thought Frank Gore looked good again. I know he had the fumble at the end, but he just I don't know. Frank Gore just continues to be like super efficient and make guys miss with that dead leg and just keeps finding a way to get forward. Good for him. Jordan Hancock had some nice flashes.
Yes. Like I said, we did mention the pass rush snaps for Sanders and Deanne Walker and Landon Jackson. Same, like all 3 of them at least had positive flashes. They all had some negative plays they're going to want back and some, uncomfortable film breakdowns that they'll go through. I thought that was positive. Edifon Ulufosio, I saw, again, at least I noticed him, and I remember bringing that up like last preseason. Like I didn't even notice that he existed, and like at least he made me notice he was there.
Fair.
And the same thing, Wande Owens, for the first time noticed that he existed. Like, and that was a guy that I know a handful of guys like you and sickos that go deep into the drafts was like, hey, keep an eye on this guy. There's a chance he could be a sneaky one, especially with what the safety room is. And that obviously hasn't been the case. But I at least noticed him for the first time there. So maybe he's the kind of guy that like maybe he could push for a practice squad kind of thing. I don't think he will, but that I think they're going to be throwing some darts there for where that is.
I'm hoping I always say from a back end coverage perspective and for a lot of the trenches, I always like to wait to see the tape. I'm really hopeful that I come out of the tape. Yeah, KJ Hamler popped a little bit. Yeah, he's got some just value, especially with the juice that he brings. He could, potentially make a case for that last wide receiver spot too, potentially if there was one. I'm hoping watching the tape, somebody pops more in the trenches or from a coverage standpoint. And I'm like, oh, this was a nice piece to see. I don't want to watch the offensive line because they look bad. The backups on offensive line scare me. They're getting knocked around. I don't think it'll come from there. I'm hoping defensively I can hang my head on something. Again, very rarely do I tune out in a game or like not want to watch the tape. And I tuned out in this one and I don't want to watch the all 22. And so I'm hoping somebody can give me something to be like, you know what? That game sucked, but Timmy looked really good. So let's look at Timmy, just something.
The offensive line one is the biggest one where we didn't have the equity of who was going against who, because our backups are pretty good, but the Bears starting defensive line is good. They have their front has some players. So all of a sudden now you're like, well, our backups aren't going to be moving people that are starters. And then when that switched, now then you had our third string guys against their backups, and our third string guys aren't anything special because we didn't invest in anyone because we brought back our top 9 or 10 guys. So it was all UDFAs and just street free agent guys. So like it took a while. Then like towards the end, you at least had some equity there where we could start. Now you saw Frank Gore running and moving when you got our third string guys against their third string guys, and you had some equity where now all of a sudden it was like, okay. And then we started to move a little bit. So like that was one of the biggest examples of today's game where like just the guys they were playing and who we were playing. Well, yeah. like there's a reason Brandon Thorne ranks us as the third best offensive line in the NFL. Well, none of those guys played. It's literally zero. Even our primary backup, our sixth guy, and Alec Anderson, like literally none of the guys who play for us played. So of course, when you went for linemen 7 through 11 as the starters, and then linemen 12 through 16 next, like of course it wasn't going to look awesome to be able to do those things. So
once I saw Ryan Vandermark get long-armed by Austin Booker and driven into the backfield, I was like, well, that's probably they're gonna get worked by this unit because he's the offensive lineman 7 essentially, maybe 8 depending on Nubio Grable. Yeah, and when he got worked by Booker, I was like, oh no, this gives not a lot of hope for the rest of the group.
Yeah, so I too look forward to you finding something positive out of what I just experienced, but. We're at an hour mark, and I'm embarrassed for us that we.
I really didn't think we would go. Well, in all fairness, though, we really just spoke a lot on the negatives, and I think it was that very cathartic. We needed to do this.
I think needed to get that out.
I think the sleep, because if we didn't do this, I'd still be awake, but I would just be like hands folded on my chest, just staring up at the ceiling, like not being able to sleep. So I think this was cathartic. We talked it out. We had some positive conversations, even though it was about negative things, and then we can say goodbye and unplug and just go into our beds and go to sleep.
That's right. And tomorrow, all research available, free agents.
Yeah, and so I'll wake up early and take a peek and see who will cost what and what money is in the banana stand. Or, you know what? Who needs safeties if you just trade for Trey Hendrickson? Right?
Waves and waves of pass rushers. That's it. So if anybody wants to know my process, obviously I'm going to look at the free agents. I'm going to figure out like, hey, did Jordan Whitehead have anything left? Marcus Williams, Justin Simmons, all those guys there. Then I'll go through like the first 5 or 6, maybe 8 safeties drafted in the draft and go look at those teams to see, hey, did they retain a guy who played last year and is getting bumped into a backup role? And then figure out which of those guys can we trade Dwayne Carter for.
It all comes back to the trade for Dwayne Carter. Got to find some use for that 2024 third round. Yeah, man, I don't even want to make the joke, but
Steve brought it up. Like we saw, like the Kalen Sanders, Luke Fortin trade. I just want that trade. Like I want to trade Dwayne Carter for somebody's third safety who's good enough to be our Band-Aid.
I would have been all right with, like, I'm not going to speak ill of. I talked about him so negatively throughout the entire offseason. I'm not going to do it again. Yeah, it's rough. Greg, any parting thoughts or words for any of the people?
I'm glad this game didn't count.
That's fair. You know what does count? The deliciousness of One Pie Pizza, the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. If you want to try and pick yourselves up off the ground from this terrible evening of football, can wake up on Monday, you get yourself a breakfast pizza from One Pie Pizza, which is absolutely tremendous, or just get a regular pie in the afternoon, maybe some lunchtime action, maybe some dinner action. I don't say they're the best pizza in Buffalo, New York because they sponsor the show. They sponsor the show because I sincerely think they are the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. And they have fantastic homemade blue cheese. They also do a bunch of catering options. They have a catering division now called Elevated Catering of Buffalo. Both the Elevated Catering menu aspect services website can be found in the episode show notes here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you're listening to the show on. Same thing for the One Pie Pizza website and menu and all their details. They have a pizza that's named after the show and the Cover One brand and also has Josh Allen tied into it and is absolutely delicious. Get yourself some One Pie Pizza. It will make you feel better on Monday if you wake up and you're still frustrated or sad. Get yourself some One Pie Pizza. They make tremendous food and they do a lot of good for the community. I talk about all the initiatives and the drives and the support, whether it's partnering with the SPCA, Toys for Tots, the Alzheimer's Foundation, partnering with Roswell to try and knock out cancer. They're really good people. making really good food and doing a lot of good for the community. Yeah, great comment here from RJ. RJ says, I tried their pizza with pepperoni, sausage, bacon, red onion, and yellow peppers. One of the best pizzas ever. Yeah.
That's a great order.
Yeah, he tagged me in a picture. It looked tremendous. Like he did it up. Yeah, they appreciate that testimonial, RJ. Yeah, they do really good stuff. Go get yourself some one pie pizza. Make yourself feel better on Monday. That'll do it for us here on this episode of Disguise Coverage. Major thank you to you, Greg, for joining me on this journey and staying up late so we could just be miserable together.
Misery.
Yeah, and talk about sadness. This is a good time. No, but sincerely, thank you for joining me. Wish it was under better circumstances. Like you said, this game doesn't count. It's the preseason. We'll see what happens going forward. Thank you to everyone who joined us live. Thank you to Aaron for your super chat and sympathy early on. Thank you very much. I don't know how to say this name, but C2R2TY for your super chat. Thank you very much to Adam for your super chat. Thank you very much for being here in general, but appreciate the super chat. For those of you watching live, if you have not already dropped a like, please drop a like on this video. Likes are the lifeblood of these streams, whether you're watching live now or watching post live later. Please drop a like here on YouTube. Turn on notifications for the Disguise Coverage playlist. Subscribe to the Cover One channel and see the multitude of content that we have across the entire brand. If you're listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, that's cool too. Please rate, review, and subscribe. And again, check out the multitude of content we have pretty much across every single day of the week, especially come regular season time for the Bills. Greg, anything you want to say before we say goodbye?
No, appreciate you guys. This was a lot of fun, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, check out Greg and Aaron Wednesday live, 9 p.m. on the Cover One Buffalo Show. It's been fun. Thank you, Greg. Thank you for everybody who tuned in. Thank you for everybody who watched, listened, downloaded, whatever have you, whatever form or fashion your episode consumption comes in. We greatly appreciate it and are thankful for it. We hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. We will see you when we see you. And also, thank you very much for all the kind words coming up into the chat. We appreciate you folks. I see them. I'm used to always doing this solo, so I don't bring up the positive comments in the end because usually it's just me by myself. And I think that's corny to be like, oh, let me pull up this comment of somebody saying I did a good job. But we see them. We appreciate them. Thank you, folks, very much. We will see you when we see you. Godspeed. And as always, there you go. Greg pulled it up. Yeah, it doesn't count because I'm doing it. Yeah, very nice. We will see you when we see you. Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.